Okay, yeah, he said it. Okay. Hello, welcome to the Design Review Board meeting. Dean, I'll have you give roll call and call to order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The meeting will be called to order as soon as we confirm a quorum and that the Open Meetings Act required notice has been.
Dean or Gary, if you guys were speaking at all, we cannot hear you. You are muted.
Oh, Dustin.
Okay.
I'm going to have to start over.
Do I do anything here? I don't think
I
so.
didn't know we had to be muted up here.
Hold on here.
I don't have a switch on my microphone.
I got it up here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything there, so I don't know.
We can still not hear you.
There, that should have taken care of
Can
it.
you hear us now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
All right,
Start.
again, we'll start over here with
Start over.
calling the meeting to order.
the
And
meeting will
Dean?
be called to order, and I'm going to call roll, and we'll have Board Member Noonan,
Here.
Board Member Kitchen,
Here.
Board Member Butler,
Here.
Board
Yep.
Member Helzer, and Chair Martins.
Present.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, and I'll ask Margie to confirm that the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been provided for today's meeting.
Yes, I can confirm that the packet was posted and the required notice of today's meeting was provided.
Okay, so we have
Okay,
jurisdiction to hold this meeting and conduct today's business.
okay, thank you. I think first item on the business is the approval of the minutes from the March 11th, 2021 regular meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Are there any additions or changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll move to approve.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. No further discussion. All in favor say aye. Or do we need to go roll call?
I think we can dispense with the roll call
Okay,
now. So,
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Margie, did you have the seconder of that motion?
Yes, that was Board Member Kitchen.
Okay.
All opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried, minutes approved. Now we're ready for new business, the application CC21-4. I'll let you have it, Dean.
Under public hearings scheduled for this afternoon, application CC21-4 has been filed by Charles Renz, architect, on behalf of Salina Regional Health Center. And the request is for approval of a certificate of compatibility to allow exterior facade modifications to be made to the former Salina Journal building that's located on the east side of South 4th Street between Mulberry Street and South Street. This property is addressed as 333 South 4th Street. And I think on first thought about where the BID extends and the boundaries of the business improvement district, I think on first thought this one might not come to mind, but it is right on the edge, the southeastern edge of the downtown business improvement district. What makes it a little different is it's not part of the C4 core, so it would not be considered part of the core downtown area, but it is still part of the business improvement district. And the building on this lot dates back to 1961, and there were additions made in 1979, and as part of that, there was a printing plant that was a part of this building, and as part of that printing plant, there was a rail spur put in that allowed for rail cars carrying rolls of paper to be delivered to the printing plant. And so this is no longer the home of the Salina Journal. It's been purchased by the Salina Regional Health Center, and they are proposing to convert the building to administrative offices for some of their hospital support services, including their IT department. And so the renovation project involves a lot of interior demolition and remodeling, but it also involves changes to the front of the building along 4th Street. And upon project completion, the Salina Regional Health Center anticipates that this building will house 80 to 100 employees. And so the BID boundary runs right down the alley east of 4th Street, and so any proposed changes to this building need to be reviewed and approved by this board before that work proceeds or any permits can be issued. And the project architect can provide more detail than staff can, but we've kind of broken this down into site improvements and building improvements. And so on the site modification side, the most significant one is a plan to remove the rail spur that currently runs in front of the building. And there's also a plan to remove and replace sidewalk along the west side of the building, to replace courtyard fencing at the south end where the main entrance is, and then there will be grass and landscaping added along the west edge of the building where there's none present today. As far as the changes to the 4th Street facade, there's going to be a plan to clean and patch existing brick. They're going to add some brick accents to break up the long expanse of frontage. They're going to plan to install architectural metal panels and an existing painted precast wall will have the paint removed and retreated, and it will be finished in a buff color to try to replicate what's present on many of the Salina Regional Health Center buildings on Santa Fe. So this panel will be touched up and provided with a new finish so that it more closely identifies with other Salina Regional Health Center properties. There'll be some EFS material on the south elevation and new EFS added on portions of the west and north elevation, and there's some deteriorating overhead doors on the existing building. Those will be replaced. So you as a board are authorized to grant a certificate of compatibility if upon a vote of the majority of its members, the project is found to comply with the policies and guidelines. And so we have provided information about guidelines for alterations, guidelines for architectural character, guidelines for the use of color, and guidelines relating to the design of signs. And so obviously this existing sign will be removed. That will be a panel and replaced by a smaller logo sign for the Salina Regional Health Center. And so one thing we would point out is that the building in this case has 300 feet of frontage on South 4th Street. And although it's outside the downtown core and not Zone C4, it does have a 0 building setback at the south end, and at the other portions it only has a 12-foot setback from 4th Street. So this is closer to the street than a typical C3 development. But because this building is so long and because it's so close to 4th Street, it does have a large impact on the 4th Street streetscape. So from our reading of the plans, the renovation proposed covers the entire 4th Street facade. It would break up what's predominantly a blank wall face, and the plan to use contrasting materials and contrasting colors to try to break up that long expanse. There will be some windows and new entry points that will be added to provide more natural light. Staff thinks the buff-colored precast panel at the south end will help tie this building in with other Salina Regional Health Center buildings in the facility. Staff would note that similar types of architectural panels were used on the upper levels of the Salina Fieldhouse project downtown. So one of the distinctions between C4 and C3 is that in C4, landscaping is voluntary, but in the C3 district, front yard landscaping is required, and this is a substantial redevelopment, so some additions of front yard landscaping is going to be required, and we will continue to work with the project architect on the details of that. The other difference between this project and a typical project that the board sees is that in the C4 district, businesses are not required to provide their own off-street parking, but because this is C3, this building is required to have off-street parking. And so the plan is to provide about 40 spaces on site, and then there's another 68 spaces across the street in a satellite lot on the other side of the street on 4th Street. So we have offered some suggested findings. We do think that the proposed design provides a primary facade that's in scale with and aligns with surrounding traditional buildings. The building design includes a mix of materials, finishes, and textures. And we think that these changes will make the building compatible with Salina Regional Health Center's buildings in the vicinity. There is plans to use contrasting colors and textures to break up the blank wall that we currently have. Removal of the rail spur and installation of the sidewalks will enhance the 4th Street streetscape, and overall the contrasting colors and materials being proposed will combine to break up the expanse of that 300-foot long wall that's facing 4th Street. So your options this afternoon would be to approve a certificate of compatibility for the renovation project, including the Salina Regional Health Center logo and enclosure of the loading dock area. And I don't know if our elevations go that far, Dustin, but at the north end, there's a covered but unenclosed loading area, and part of this plan is to enclose that loading area. So from staff's perspective, because it already has a roof on it, we don't consider it to be an addition, but it is a modification, and we'd want to bring that to your attention. You could approve this subject to any conditions approved by a majority of the board. You could postpone consideration this afternoon if you feel like you need to acquire additional information concerning this proposal, or you could deny the application as it is presented. The staff's recommendation is option 2, and we have 2 suggested conditions. And so with that, I think we'll be open to any questions board members may have, or if there's a particular slide or image that a board member would like to see again or more closely, please let us know. And if no questions, then we would want to hear from the applicant to see what staff might have left out.
Okay, we'll open it up to the other commission members. Do you have any comments, questions?
I do have a question of just the architect to explain the vertical black columns on the brickwork, if that's just painted brick, or it was hard to tell in the drawings what those are. So I'd just like clarification on that. And then also they say they're going to enclose that back loading dock. Is it enclosed in brick, or what material is being used to enclose that as well, since that visually will show across that north side and across the parking lot and things.
Okay, if you'd like to step up and identify yourself, and then you can answer.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Charles Renz with Jones Gillum Renz Architects. I am the project architect for this facility. One thing to clarify, the north end, our original plan was to fill in that canopy to the roof, but we have deleted that from the scope of work. So there are no building improvements back there other than we're replacing some of the trim around the roof and the overgrown landscaping over there on that north end, kind of at the west half of the building over there. There's some overgrown landscaping that we plan on cleaning up and replacing that as needed. But we did delete that. When we initially discussed this with the city, we were going to enclose that loading dock area, but we have since deleted that from
so
the
that's not being
scope of work. Regarding the brick black accents that you see there on the brick, our intent there was to actually cut out the brick and then replace that with an accent brick. Our thought behind it is just it's such an enormously long and low building that, we just wanted to try to break that up. And so we were just looking for some nice ways to, create some patterning. So what we've done is we're cleaning up the painted white precast panels that exist there, as Dean described, going back in and treating those with a buff color, similar to what's at the hospital. And then the idea with the metal panels is it would be like a kind of a charcoal gray, dark metal panel. They're panels that we've used in other areas downtown. For instance, it's similar to a panel that's going in on the car museum. It's very similar to panels maybe that you would see at like Central High School on that addition over there. Gourmet to go, the panels, over there at Iron and Ohio. So it's a pretty commonly used, it's an architectural panel. There are no exposed fasteners on it. It is a very nice, clean looking architectural panel. The intent there being to kind of break up the brick and with the dark color to kind of create a nice accent right there. If you go further down to the north end, over there, there's the second area where we've broken up the brick. Again, part of that is just to break up the brick facade. Oh, thank you. Part of that is just to break up the brick facade a little bit. We also have an area right here where there was a separate addition that occurred. There's been 2 or 3 additions, but there's just a slight mismatch in brick. And so we tried to use this black architectural panel as a bridge, basically, to kind of help tie everything in and make those, just make that tie in a little bit nicer. So we talked about the fascia across the top. This will be an EFIS fascia. I'm sure you're familiar with that around town, but it's kind of a simulated or synthetic stucco type finish across there. But like I said, these accents that we cut in here, again, those were just to try to, create a little bit of repetition around the building with an element, but we didn't want to paint those. We're cutting those in to the brick.
Okay.
So.
I have a question. On the south end, I'll hold mine up, but on the south end, is this going to stay white?
No.
No.
That's just the light on the rendering.
Okay.
The EFIS, the buff colored fascia, will wrap all the way around to the front, and the windows are being replaced with new windows to match the new windows that we are putting in at the
Kind of a figure
at the entry and various areas around the building. So yeah, that's just the way the sun shines on the rendering right there. So.
All right.
When we talk about replacing the courtyard fence, maybe we can see that on the aerial photo, Dustin, but what area are we referring to at the south end?
That is this, there is some kind of dilapidated fence right through here. It's just some cedar fence in this area right here. There's a courtyard that comes off of the building, off of a break room up here in this area. And so, yeah, there's just a little bit of privacy fence back here that we are planning on replacing and just freshening that up, again, with privacy fence. It's kind of removed from the street and everything right there. It's not highly visible, but it is something that, yeah, we are planning on replacing that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
I have one. And Dean, I think you touched on this. Well, I know you did. You mentioned the 68 spaces in the parking lot across the street, and maybe this isn't that relevant for today, but is there a plan to add parking, or is the existing parking sufficient for the 80 to 100 people that are intended to work there?
Well, based on our calculations for what would be required, the proposal that the architect has put forward with the 41 spaces that are on site and with the 68 spaces across the street, that we've determined that there's, based on the office space that's provided, there's a need for 91 off-street spaces, and they exceed that with their more than 120 spaces.
Okay.
So we think the population of this building will be higher. There'll be more employers, more density than there was with the Salina Journal. But between what's on site and what is existing across the street, from our calculations, they have provided sufficient parking.
Okay.
And I'll point out that our plan at this point is to we're going to resurface the parking that's there, stripe it back just like it is. We're only looking to, there's some areas where it's just damaged, and we're just looking to clean that up. There has been some discussion about adding additional parking down in this area right here. There has been no decision on that. And our understanding is, I mean, if that is the direction that we decide to go, we'll have to run that through the city and submit that.
But you have room for expansion, so.
Pardon me?
But you have room for expansion. If you
We do have room for expansion. We have quite a few more cars or parking stalls than we have employees intended for the building right now.
So Dustin, if you zoomed out a little bit, could you show the three primary areas of parking north, south, and west of the building that are part of this project?
So this is the north parking lot that's north of the existing building, and then there's a few parking spaces to the south of the building. And then on the east side of 4th Street is the satellite lot that we were talking about a moment ago that does have some off-street parking for this facility.
So should there be a determination that we're not having enough parking, there is that vacant lot on the south that has not yet been developed, that is under the hospital's control, and so there is the capacity to add spaces if the need arises.
Okay. So again, comments, questions from anyone?
Is that the only signage they plan on having, is the one small sign there?
At this point in time, yes. At this point in time, that's all we have planned.
So the way we have addressed that is that as part of the motion, that would include the logo that you're seeing today, but we have a recommended condition that any proposals to add additional exterior signs would come back before this board before any sign permits were issued. So the only thing that you would be approving for installation today would be that logo, and if they should change their mind and come back and want to add some sort of ground or pole sign or some additional wall sign, under our recommended condition number 2, that would come back before this board.
Okay. All right then, if we've got all of our questions answered and comments, I'll accept a motion on this proposal.
I would move for option 2 to approve the certificate of compatibility with the understanding if there are any significant changes to the design or there are any additional signs going on the building, that will be brought back to the staff.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, we'll vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. That's the only new business. Dean, do we have any administrative
We
or
don't
preliminary
have any
discussion?
administrative items or preliminary discussion items at this time. There is a plan. We had a committee that was formed downtown, and we were looking for all to establish some boundaries and rules and regulations for downtown performance art and art installations and sidewalk vending and a number of things, and we kind of parked those with the pandemic when social gathering wasn't exactly encouraged. But as we come out the other side, we'll be working on some of those, and there may be some of those that we would bring before this board just to get input on. And so those might come before this board as just preliminary discussion items to discuss and get some guidance on. And then in the way of other business or unfinished business, I would ask the chair and those present today if they would be able and willing to hold a special meeting 2 weeks from today. We have I don't think even among the vendors it was widely understood, but our sidewalk cafe license program requires that those operators renew their license to use the sidewalk each year, and the ordinance tasks the design review board with conducting that annual renewal review. So essentially what it means is that there would be a hearing, and this group would look to see if the sidewalk dining operation was being conducted the way they understood when they approved it, and if so, renewing it for another year. But from a timing standpoint, we're working with Blue Sky Brewery on theirs, and they weren't quite ready for today. But if the board is able and willing, we would like to try to bring that back before this board 2 weeks from today on the 22nd.
Okay.
So I
My
guess
schedule is open, but how about the rest of the commission? How about if somebody speaks up if they cannot attend? It doesn't look like we have anybody saying anything, so I believe that'll work on the 22nd.
So what we'll count on is having reconvening either in this room or via Zoom on the 22nd, and the item on your agenda will be renewal of the sidewalk dining license for Blue Sky Brewery.
Okay, thank you. We don't have anyone here for a public forum. I guess I didn't ask about unfinished or other business that
Well, that
covered it?
Yeah, that covered it.
Okay.
That's our one we're trying to get completed in April would be the Blue Sky Brewery, and then I guess Dustin can check to see if we have anybody from the public that's in the meeting via Zoom.
We do not have anyone from the public in the meeting in Zoom.
Okay. Well, if there's no other business and no other comments from the other commission members, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, Caden moved to adjourn, and a second?
Second.
Katie seconded. All right, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.